All right, and we're live. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. So I'm Colin Lasware. I'm from ODIN'S RPG. And this is going to be a low-key uh, design discussion and progress update on Dungeon 23, which is my what I've been working towards since the start of January. So Dungeon 23 started off from Sean McCoy on Twitter as a daily challenge to create something new for a TTRPG every day. So on one side, it's going to be room descriptions. On the other side, it would be a map. So with the intention of having a mega dungeon at the end of it. So you do one room per day, and then that builds out a mega dungeon for yourself. So the approach I've taken is a mega city for my Weird West TTRPG We Deal in Lead, which is heavily inspired by the Dark Tower. So I've been building a mega city for my Dungeon 23 project. So I've got 10 regions done so far, and it averages out to about 5 areas per region. So I've got about 50 areas done so far in the 2 months and a bit that I've been doing it. So it's good. Yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I miss a few days occasionally, or miss a day or two occasionally, but you know, yeah, it's fun. I'm not beating myself up about it if I miss a day. Just it is how it is. So it's meant to be just enjoyable, good time. Yeah. Okay. So I'm streaming at a different time. I've streamed at like a variety of times, usually at short notice, but I want to start doing this a bit more frequently. So I'm going to be hoping to do a stream on Saturdays every 2 weeks or so. It might alternate. I might miss a week, and but yeah, every 2 weeks. That's the plan. Just because I want to alternate, having spending time with my day job, spending time doing work for ODIN'S RPG, obviously spending time with my wife. So I need to balance things. Right. So that's out of the way. I'm going to switch over to. I've created a PDF that has my progress for Dungeon 23, where it has the most recent 3 regions. So these are regions 8, 9, and 10. So hopefully audio is coming through clearly. Let me know if it isn't. But yeah, should be good. All right, I'm going to switch over now. All right, bear with me. Yes. Sorry, I'm still figuring things out. Okay. I'm going to go here. PDF showcase. Just going to make sure that that's come across successfully. Still getting to grips with navigating OBS, which is what I use for streaming. OBS on multiple monitors and making sure that that everything looks the way it should. I'm waiting for my preview monitor to change. There's a bit of a delay in it. There we go. Okay. All right. Find that back. All right, there we go. Okay. Oh, that's actually the most recent one. So here we are. This is the notebook that I'm using. I've scanned this in. So this is I'll show you here. This is the actual notebook. And this obviously is a scan page. You can see the spiral binding and everything. Okay, so we're going to start with, I'm going to read off the area descriptions, and you can see on the right-hand side here the map that I've drawn out. Okay, so Area 1 is the Traveler's Rest Tavern. Sweet smell of tobacco and stale beer. Faded wooden walls and dusty trails surround. A posse waits inside, cold and still, ancient bones resting on sandalwood grips. So that's this area here. So for this region, I wanted to take a different approach because on the previous ones, I was working on the concept of megacity, and I'm starting on the outside edge of it. So, like doing industrial areas and then working more into the center of the actual city. But for this one, I wanted to kind of, shake it up. So this is almost like a collection of areas that aren't really connected to anywhere else. You'll see the later entries. This is like a mishmash of times, which is what the Drifted World, the setting of We Deal in Lead. It's a kind of a consolidation of different time periods and eras. So you've got the Wild West themed tavern, which is very fitting in the Weird West genre. Again, this is named after one of the taverns in the Dark Tower, and I wanted to have it be kind of a creepy, like ghost tavern, as if there's undead gunslingers inside, or like skeletal gunslingers inside, ready to mow down anyone who enters. So again, these are kind of I don't know, and ultimately what I'll be using all of these for. I had the idea of having it be a not necessarily a mega city as it is, but like a list of entries in a random table for locations for a mega city. The name of the city is Omega City. So these all tend to be a bit strange or spooky or surreal. And so I'd have a table of like, I usually have a table of like secrets or mysteries or encounters in my random tables. And then also a table of like mundane encounters. So most of these aren't mundane. Most of these have a supernatural or a sci-fi or fantasy edge to them. So I might do another table of like mundane entries to flesh it out. I haven't decided yet, so. But most of these, a majority of these are going to be like unusual or like extreme situations. So I've got some that are like vacant lots and that sort of thing. Oh, Sivad Sanctum is in the chat and says that the saloon in Mehis thought it sounded familiar from the Dark Tower. Yep, absolutely. Funnily enough, there's quite a few Traveller's Rests in the UK. I've seen probably half a dozen or a dozen, just kind of clock them, which is a common name, but it's a cool, I think it's a cool tavern name. Okay, so moving on to Area 2, which is Research Station Zeta, or Zeta. Gleaming steel and shining glass, sophisticated laser grid targets any unauthorized personnel. Attack drones roam the perimeter. So that's this area here. So again, this is drastically different from the tavern in the previous one. I wanted this to be like kind of high sci-fi or almost hard sci-fi to juxtapose against the Weird West tavern. So again, yeah, this is something you might see like in the far future. So still operating at peak efficiency rather than falling into disrepair as most of the other areas are in the Drifted World. Third one is Area 3 is Broken Shore. So that's up here. Tear rent in the earth, bleed seawater from a lost ocean. Strange creatures drag themselves from the sea. Time smells different here. So this one, you can see the rift or the rent in the earth. This one again, I wanted to convey or echo the feeling from the Drawing of the Three, the second book in the Dark Tower series, where Roland ends up on this like vast, almost endless beach with like weird creatures in the sea that come out at night to feast on anything that's on the beach. And And I like the idea of like a lost ocean, just where like because the drifted world in general is like a bleached desert or like a blasted desert. So just the fact that there's like a rip that reveals an ocean, either under the surface or like being pulled in from another world. I just like that idea. So what my kind of goal on these are like short, evocative, impactful statements that a warden or a GM could take and run as a location or as a setting. So that's kind of why I use the short evocative language that I do. Then area 4, just gonna move my mic a bit. Area 4 is precarious hoodoo. So a thin spire of rock worn down through eons of erosion. Plain wooden door rests at the top, 70 feet off the ground. Bronze plaque on the door reads, "You do." That's here. So area 4. So hoodoos. So I'm from Canada originally. I'm from Alberta, and there's an area called Drumheller which has hoodoos. So they're basically they're a bit hard to describe, but it is like a spire of rock that's been worn down by erosion and by decades and centuries and eons of erosion and water. So basically, it's just a thin spire that kind of reaches out like this. And there's like a forest of them in Drumheller. It's really amazing. That's where they found a lot of like fossils, dinosaur fossils and remains. So Alberta has a lot of really distinct and diverse regions. So they've got mountains, they've got like kind of lakes, they've got prairies, and also a desert like in Drumheller. So Civet Sanctum says, "Gotta flip east and west constantly, like drawing of the three." Yeah, yeah. There's some really cool like disorienting behavior that happens in the books. Yeah, so I like the idea of bringing in stuff from my experience, stuff that I've seen, face to face. And the plain wooden door is obviously a slip door, which are spread out all over the drifted world, and that's what you use, or that's what gunslingers use, or those who are able to see slip doors. That's what they use to travel to different worlds. And the saying on it, "You do," is obviously a pun to the hoodoos. So hoodoo, you do. Remind me of the Babe. Nice labyrinth reference. Right, and finally, the final area of this region is humming monorail tracks. Partially fluorescent steel, warm to the touch. Low frequency hum penetrates all substance. Sometimes sounds like insane laughter. Sorry, substances. Sometimes sounds like insane laughter. And that is here on the map. So again, most of these are references, like almost direct references to the Dark Tower and different interactions or different encounters in the Dark Tower. So the monorail in the Wastelands, the monorail was a key character or a key figure in that there was Blaine the monorail was an insane AI monorail, or insane AI, essentially monorail vehicle that like roamed the wasteland and had slowly become insane over centuries and millennia of like degrading circuitry. So that's what the echoes of insane laughter is. And later on, I'll tell you more about my plans for this monorail. A little sneak peek. Yeah, so disparate areas for this region. I just wanted to kind of like, push it out and try different things and have fun with it. And then, all right, I'll move on to the next one. There we go. Okay, so this is region 9. This is coming back more into kind of a standard area, but not quite city center, or not quite urban area. So area 1 is a shanty town. Oh, so Sivad Sanctum said again, it's crazy how much of the series you've been able to fit into such a small region. Yeah, thanks. It's just kind of like a whistle stop tour, like more like flavor from the Dark Tower. I just wanted to kind of, you know, bring in some direct references. Right, so Shantytown. A collection of lost souls and broken travelers, residents from different worlds and times, the languages spoken number in thousands. More and more vanish each night, reading my writing. More and more vanish each night, lost to the red claws in the sands. So that's this area here. So this is basically, yeah, like it says, it's a shanty town. You're gonna have stuff from different worlds, different times. You're gonna have like caravans, wooden or like airstream caravans. You're gonna have like advanced technology mixed with prehistoric or Stone Age stuff. You're gonna have people from all over different worlds and different times speaking different languages. And the red claws in the sands refers to the drifted vampire, which is a monster in the bestiary, which is very like you wouldn't want to run up against them. Basically, a vampire that lives in the caves under the sand and is drawn to blood. Very very dangerous. Skin dyed red with blood over like centuries and millennia of like absorbing and drinking blood. Okay, so area 2 is a cracked riverbed. Foul steam sprays every 7 hours, dissolving flesh. Chitinous six-legged forms crawl from the cracks after every spray. Creatures laugh and yip as they feast. So that's this riverbed here. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It looks like almost like a mini canyon. So yeah, just something weird that happens. Evocative, like. So this is kind of based on stories of hot springs. So I think in one of Chuck Palahniuk's short story books, he has a story about these hot springs that people die in all the time, or like animals die in, because they don't recognize how hot the water actually is, so they'll jump in and get essentially boiled instantly. There's nothing you can do for them. Really grim, but that's kind of what I thought of steam that sprays out. And six-legged, I wanted to go with something a bit unusual. I guess there are some six-legged creatures, or insects and stuff like that. Arachnids are 8, but just something evocative, unusual, and laughing and yipping. So this is kind of inspired by the lobstrosities from Drawing of the Three, which chitter, or they make strange noises as they come out. Right. So third area is lumber mill. So overgrown with pungent thorns that ooze viscous orange liquid. Flies swarm constantly, feeding on the ooze. Great gray swarms cover the dead trees of the nearby woods. So Sivad Sanctum said, Death in Yellowstone is a book that made me terrified of hot springs. Yeah, there's... it's not something you think, but it's basically like magma or lava heated water, superheated water. So it's like, that's why it's part of the physics of it. So it's, terrifying. So 3, lumber mill, we've got that here. Pungent thorns that ooze viscous orange liquid. So I got the little vines that are everywhere. So like, almost like intelligent vines that are growing over everything. And I like having, memorable details like orange liquid, viscous orange liquid. The flies that swarm, and then because it's a lumber mill, I wanted to have some, have a basically woods or a forest next to it where they would harvest lumber for the lumber mill, and it's all dead devoured by the flies and also just over time. Area 4 is Colossal Skeleton. So dried and yellowed in the sun, picked clean. Various nomadic markets spring up under the ribcage. Elaborate tunnels inside the marrow channels protrude deep underground. So that's this image here. So it's based on a whale skeleton. Obviously not anatomically accurate. But I like the idea of having, like in Pacific Rim, where there's like a commodity that springs up around the body of a kaiju. So you've got a colossus that's not gonna, what happens if you have a massive whale that just is in the desert decomposing? What do you do with it? And there's material that you can take from it. You can use it as shelter. I also like the idea of having because it's so big, you've got within the bones themselves, there's like the channels where the marrow was, and then those go deep underground, because I imagine it burst out of the ground. And I like the idea of having it, like them using it for like a shelter in markets and stuff like that. And then finally, the last area, another grim one, writhing mass grave, dug by machines, piled high with corpses in various stages of decomposition. Something in the earth seeps into the flesh, causing it to dance. So that's here. So again, because the Drifted World is set in the far future, or parts of it are, I like the idea of having this, like there was at one time maybe a machine uprising, or this grave was just dug by machines and just corpses were tossed into it. But the earth has gone bad, similar to the Pet Cemetery. That kind of concept of like something in the earth that poisons the bodies that are buried there. So they're not quite mobile enough to climb out of the grave, but they still like dance inside of it. So I just thought it was a really creepy image. Just imagine seeing that, like thousands or tens of thousands of like rotting corpses that are just like dancing in this mass grave, essentially dancing. Okay, so that's the end of this region. So this is more of a deserty region, which I think fits. This could be potentially on the outside of the city. Sorry, I gotta turn off my. Forgot to set my watch on Do Not Disturb. Yeah. So the Omega City is the last city that's built, or that kind of set on the edge of the desert. The desert's slowly claiming it, so it makes sense that there would be some areas that are more desert-like than others. The ground is sour, yeah. So Civet Sanctum says the ground is sour from Pet Cemetery. Really, really cool. Like, I think looking back, I think Stephen King has had a pretty major impact on my writing and on my like genre experience. So I read a lot of Stephen King in high school, especially The Dark Tower, and there's just some really cool and creepy situations. I think for Pet Cemetery, I think the creepiest thing, at least in the film, the creepiest thing isn't really related to the main storyline, which is, you bury something in this special area and it comes back to life, whether it's pets or other living things. But there's a flashback to Denise Crosby's character as a child, and she's got a sister who has spinal meningitis, and it's horrific, the flashback. So I think that always sticks with me. Like that's one of the creepiest things I've seen in films, and still like creeps me out. Just tangent, thinking about creepy things. Again, relating to Pet Cemetery. Okay, and the final area here. So this is Region 10. Now we're getting more or a bit back into urban, so away from the desert. So area 1 is shelled skyscraper. Smell of charred meat, steel girders groaning. Rubble-strewn streets partially collapsed. Steel and concrete skeleton still stands. So that's this image here. And again, I wanted to start having some... Sabat Sanctum says, same, got kicked out of math class for reading Dark Tower. Yeah. Hey, Chaoclips. Brendan. Brendan, is that? Yeah, I think that's correct. Hi, Brendan. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, so I wanted to have like a kind of a more normal area, or like a more mundane area for some of these. So that's kind of just a skyscraper that's at one point's been shelled or destroyed, partially destroyed. So some of it's still intact. Some of the rubble is on the ground here. You can see the girders. So again, this nothing really particularly spooky or supernatural. Just kind of something that you'd see in a partially collapsed city. Right, area 2 is inverted mall. So hovers 100 feet above the ground, surrounded by translucent bubble. Time stops inside, positions and faces fixed. Floats throughout the region. So that's this here. I just thought I'd lean into like the weird, and so I just have this mall that's essentially preserved. Let's say from the 1980s or 90s, which is Chaoclips says finally got to catch one of these streams. Oh, yeah, thanks for coming out. I know it's like time zones don't really match sometimes, but yeah, thanks for tuning in on this one. Yeah, so I wanted to have like a mall essentially. So everything in it is perfectly preserved from the 1980s or the 90s. Let's say 90s because that's when I was most involved in malls. But obviously there's a protective bubble on it, so no one can get into it, nothing can get out. Everything's frozen inside, and it just kind of floats and like rotates, moves around the region. I just thought it was a cool visual. It's Hardaw's Mall. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So just drink of water. Right, so Area 3 is the Northern Aeronautical Institute of Technology. Smell of rotting cheese, pungent and overwhelming. Windows boarded up, orange mold growing from cracks between brickwork. Enormous rodents patrol the grounds, large as cars. So that's here. So Chaoclip says, for some reason I'm reminded of Ubik, the Philip K. Dick novel, when you describe that mall. I'm not familiar with it, but I'll have to check it out though. I like some of his other work. Yeah, so the scan here, it's a bit blurry just because of the way I scanned it in, but I think it still works. So the funny thing about this is that, so I am originally from Edmonton. I grew up in Edmonton in Canada, and there's a college there, or an institute of technology called NAIT, so Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. So this is my homage to NAIT, which is Northern Aeronautical Institute of Technology. Just thought it'd be cool to have like a college that's been overwhelmed by this is aggressive orange mold, which very likely is cheese or some form of cheese, hence the massive rodents that roam the grounds. Yeah, I tried to do like layers of the fungus, or the mold, sorry, not fungus. So I think it turned out pretty well. Right, so area 4 is metro entrance. Fully submerged in brackish black water. Shapes swirl in the depths, drawing the eye with flashing lights. So that's this area here. So this is just a really short one, with just some evocative language. So flooded tunnels that are like a flooded subway, essentially metro. Um, so as an aside, if you've been following along with my regions in the past, you might notice that there's some weird mix of language that I use or descriptions. So I use a weird, I use a combination of Canadian slang, UK slang, American slang. So I've got gas stations rather than petrol stations, but I've got car parks. I've got metro rather than a subway. I mean, there'll be some metros in the U.S. and Canada too, but I know the metro um, mainly in the UK, um, which kind of I'm leaning into it rather than having a consistent like UK based approach or Canadian based language approach. I just do a mix because it fits with the theme of Omega City, which is a melange of weird things from different times and areas. So hence Metro. So yeah, flooded subway essentially. Shapes swirl in the depths, drawing the eye with flashing lights. Again, um, just some evocative language, and the warden or GM could take that and run with it. Like, is there something that is it like an anglerfish, like a massive anglerfish that draws your eye and then snatches you into the water, or is it something like the deadlights from Stephen King's It, like Pennywise staring into like basically transfixing you with the deadlights. Matches or it fits with like um, sewers or underground. I know Metro's in a sewer, um, but both like tunnels underwater. Um, so yeah, there's I like to keep a lot of space and um, give opportunity for cool stuff to happen or for a GM or warden to take some inspiration and make something cool and run with it from just like a kernel of language. Okay, so finally we've got the fifth area here. Partially phased office building. Flickers between this world and another where time moves more slowly. Preserved for centuries with original contents, but impossible to access for more than 79 seconds. So that's this building here. That's kind of my half-assed approach to having it half phased. Um, so I like the idea of that, like, so the building's there, contents are in it, and you can grab it, but you've only got 79 seconds before half the building disappears, or before areas of the building phase, and you like fall, you kind of realize you're in open space, just falling to the ground, or it reappears and you're inside the building, killing you instantly. So kind of a cool heist opportunity, like um, can you get in, get what you need to do, get out in 79 seconds before the building phases again. Just some cool like levers to pull and stuff like that. So Chaoclips says, "This is so inspiring. I'm a big fan of the terse and evocative language." Thanks. Yeah, thanks. That means a lot. Um, that's kind of my goal is to just have things that other GMs can run with and kind of spark something. Yeah, and I think that building would be a cool, like maybe a one shot. Like you need to get something, fetch something out of the building before it disappears, or you need to plan different incursions. So Sivad Sanctum asks, have you checked out SK's Fairy Tale yet? The city in it, oh, Stephen King's Fairy Tale. The city in it feels like it gels with the Omega City vibe. Oh, cool. No, it's one of his newest ones, isn't it? No, I haven't checked it out yet, but I will absolutely, especially if it fits within the world of We Deal in Lead. Because I like, um, much like the Dark Tower encompasses all of Stephen King's work. Like it's almost like a cornerstone or uh, like the framework of his other novels. Like there's so many appearances and references in the Dark Tower um, to his other novels and his other worlds. So again, like I take a lot of inspiration from that, and so I'll have like I've got references to it in some of the monsters and stuff like that. Pardon me, but so so Chaoclip says I need to read more books. I've been on a Western kick actually, so I've just started Blood Meridian, which turns out to be pretty dark. Oh, that's Cormac McCarthy, isn't it? Yeah, no, I haven't read that myself, but I've heard it recommended. There was a 3-pack of No Country for Old Men, Blood Meridian, and I think it's All the Pretty Horses, maybe. That sounded really cool. So Civat Sanctum says lots of Dark Tower nods. Oh, cool, in Fairy Tale. Nice. Yeah, definitely check that out. There's always the threat of Stephen King rewriting, continuing to rewrite The Dark Tower. I don't know if that'll actually happen, because he's getting on there now, and I mean it's possible. He might be working on it now, but I think he wanted to write himself out of the storyline. Spoiler for anyone who hasn't fully read the Dark Tower series, the 7.5, 8 books. But Stephen King appears as a character in it himself. So I think he spoke about wanting to rewrite that to take him out. But I think it works. Some of it is a bit self-indulgent, but I think it still works. Oh, so Civad Sanctum says Blood Meridian rips, and Chaoclips replied, "Yeah, it's a real fun read so far. Just didn't expect it to be so dark." Yeah, yeah. I mean, having read The Road and watched the adaptation, it gets pretty dark. So Civad says that would be a real shame if he did. He made it work somehow. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's not. It's still a bit rough around the edges, but I think that works. Like it works for it. I'd like to see um, more stories set in the world of the Dark Tower, but with I don't know if you guys know, or if everyone doesn't know, um, the name's just gone out of my head. Um, so the creator of The Haunting, Mike Flanagan. There we go. Mike Flanagan, a film director and TV showrunner, is doing an adaptation of The Dark Tower for Amazon. After the terrible film that came out with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. I mean, they were great in it, but the film itself wasn't very good. They're doing a new adaptation for Amazon Prime, and Mike Flanagan is showrunning it. He's done The Haunting of Hill House, Doctor Sleep, Hush, a bunch of other films. He's really, really good. Midnight Mass, which is very Stephen King like. So he's doing an adaptation of the Dark Tower, series adaptation, and he says this is a lifelong dream for him, or a dream project. So I'm hoping that will potentially kickstart some additional cool Dark Tower stuff. So I'm excited for that. So Chaoclip says, I've never read Dark Tower, but I'm trying to read more books to get more inspiration and just get immersed in new worlds. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The recommendation from a lot of creative people is to just read, or like just get exposed to other things, like different things and different perspectives and experiences. And yeah, I'm trying to do the same too. I'm really bad at reading these days. Like, just don't have time, don't set aside time to do it. But something that I'm trying to do more of. There's so much amazing stuff out there. That's like a lot of my reading kind of ends off at in university. So it's going on 20 years ago. So I'm trying to add more reading into my life. So I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah. Um, so look out for the Dark Tower series. I think it's going to be really good. Okay, So that is the 3 most recent regions. Bear with me a moment here. I'm going to switch back. Okay, there we go. Get that out of my eyeline. Yeah, so, time we on? It's okay. So I also wanted to run through some of the stuff that I'm working on now for future projects. So at the moment, it's mainly in draft form in my head, but I've also done some preliminary art for some upcoming projects. So the thing that's coming out soonest, probably, is something that I've talked about before, but I've haven't had a lot of news about it. So that's a new adventure for We Deal in Lead. It's a I wanted to have a different approach, so it's the first time that I'm using an external writer for it. So I'm commissioning an Indigenous writer to write an Indigenous focused We Deal in Lead adventure for me. And the writer I've got, Jan Martin, Hellotenbear, is doing the outline that they've sent through to me is amazing. And I'm working with them on fleshing it out into a full adventure. So I think it's going to be really cool, and a bit of a different vibe to the Shootout in Swampwater, which is the adventure in We Deal in Lead. So that's probably going to come out the soonest. I haven't really announced it anywhere, but the cover artist for that is Momatoes. So Bianca Momatoes did the ARC hardcover TTRPG, which is amazing, and she does excellent, like really cool, evocative, colorful designs. So she's agreed to do the cover for me for this Indigenous adventure. That's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to that. So I'll be editing that and doing the layout. I'd initially wanted to do that for Zine Quest, but I knew that just as things worked out and to kind of give better focus or give more focus to newer and developing creators, I thought I'd hold off and wait until after Zine Quest. So that's hopefully in April. We'll start seeing more from that. So Civad Sanctum says, I have a mighty need. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so that's probably the next project that you'll see, depending on what, depending on some timelines and stuff like that. So the next thing I've got in the works, which may or may not come out before the next We Deal in Lead adventure, is the Runecairn Bestiary. So I've been threatening this for a while. Oh, so Chaoclip says, don't know if it's appropriate to say, but I'd love to do art for you in the future. Love your work. Oh, thanks. Yeah, awesome. I really like your style. The stuff that you've been doing on YouTube is great. So absolutely, I'll definitely keep you in mind if I need any additional art. Yeah, so Runecairn Bestiary. So I'll be converting some monsters from Cairn, creating some new monsters, converting some We Deal in Lead monsters, but that I'm doing sparingly just because I think they fit better in We Deal in Lead than in Runecairn. So I will show you what I've been working on for that. So at the moment, it's just kind of going through and converting all of the monsters that are existing already into Runecairn monsters. So there's not a lot of conversion there because Cairn and Runecairn are fairly similar, just some different stat names. So Chaoclip says Runecairn Bestiary. Sounds excited about it. Yes, I'm excited too. So yeah, the difference between Cairn and Runecairn for monsters, there's one extra stat essentially, and there's a speed ability. My cat's just entered the room. So it's, and also like figuring in or working in dire strikes. So it's my version of well, it sits alongside critical damage rolls. So a dire strike, because we deal in lead and Runecairn are based on Into the Odd, there's no hit rolls. So in Runecairn especially, I wanted to have something to recreate or to replicate that feeling of rolling a critical hit. Because there are no two hit rolls, that takes the form of a dire strike. So if you're rolling a d10 for damage, for instance, if you roll a 10 on a d10, that's a dire strike. So if you roll max damage, that's a dire strike, and additional effects can happen. It happens more for like higher damage weapons or abilities. So like usually d8 or d10 and above, or like a combination like 2d6, for instance, is a good candidate for dire strike. Just because it's nice to be able to like to have that rush when you do max damage and have it be impactful. So adding in some dire strikes to some of the monsters too for weird stuff that can happen. So Chaoclips asks, would there be a possible update to the Delve generator to account for the new Bestiary monsters? Yes, that's a good question actually. I probably will, or might have a like I could have new entries or new Delve table encounters to use the new monsters. Absolutely. And Eclipse also said Runecairn has some of the most fun solo dungeon delves I've had thus far. Oh, thanks. That means a lot. I know you do a lot of solo playing, so that's really cool. Good to hear. Yeah, I don't see why not. To kind of create new delves using the monsters. Sorry. So also something I have in We Deal in Lead that I didn't have in Runecairn are rules on how to convert monsters from Cairn or from OSR games into Runecairn. So I'm going to have a section on that, and like some notes and assistance on how to create your own monsters, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. I've got this will be an exclusive premiere of some art that I've done that I've been working on for Runecairn Bestiary. Bear with me as I pull it out here. Okay. Close that down. Sorry, I'm just faffing around. I should have prepared this in advance, but I didn't. Sorry, just talk amongst yourselves. As people could say in when you're role playing or when you're running a game as a DM. Oh, just role play amongst yourselves for a bit. Okay, right. I'm gonna switch back here. Chaoclip says we've got the scoop. Absolutely. So I haven't even shown this on Twitter or anything yet. So you get the inside scoop. All right, let's go PDF showcase here. Right, so here is the draft or temporary cover for the Runecairn Bestiary. So this is featuring art by Kim Diaz Holm. So I used a lot of his art in We Deal in Lead. Great artist. He releases all of his art as Creative Commons 4.0. So you can use it as you want. You can sell it. You can use it for commercial purposes. You can remix it as long as you credit him. So he's got really evocative art, and and really cool stuff. He does a lot of Viking and Scandinavian stuff. So a couple of comments, good reactions to the cover. Cover sick, that's so cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks both. It means a lot. Clip says, I've been trying to figure out how to make settings for solo RPGs, actually. I'm still trying to figure out the best way. Yeah, it's I've come late to solo RPGs actually. Because I'm used to playing and creating for group games. Um, but I knew I wanted to do some solo aspect for Runecairn when I did Advanced Rules and Warden Saga. So I looked what was out there and kind of retrofitted it for that. Um, but yeah, I think settings it's a different beast than just group play or like having. I mean, I know Perplexing Ruins, for instance, does a lot of solo. He takes a lot of games that were meant for group play and plays them solo. Um, but I don't have a lot of experience with running solo games myself or like creating solo games except for what I've done before. Yeah, so the cover. So it's a picture or an image from Kim Diaz Holm. I've added some extra texture to it, added some new color. Um, but yeah, it's really the image itself is really cool. So I'm waiting on, or I'm getting an updated logo as well for Runecairn. So that this one is just a placeholder because I wanted to. The Runecairn logo it works well enough, but it's basically just the Norse font, just prettied up a bit. So I wanted to have something bespoke for Runecairn. Um, so Andre Lukin, who did my We Deal in Lead logo, is working on the new Runecairn logo. So look out for that in the next month or so. So Chaoclip says, I was actually talking to Perplexing Runes about it recently, like the solo settings thing. Yeah, so he's really he knows the solo games pretty well, so he's a good resource for that. Yeah, so this is here it is, sneak preview Runecairn cover. Um, I like the so um so it is actually I'm gonna find just bear with me a moment here. Yes. Funnily enough, one of the main inspirations for this cover, or something that influenced me, is your cover for Vault of Doom, Civad's Sanctum. I really like the bold color and the bold composition, so that's kind of what inspired me to do this cover, or to do it like this, because I really liked the what you we did for Vault of Doom, which is your level 0 funnel for bastards. So thanks for that. Uh, I like the red and the blue. I think it works well. Um, so yeah, that's the sneak preview for this. Yeah, no thanks. It's yeah, the cover is awesome. Right. So I will show you something that I've shown off before. So this is kind of the end of um uh the exclusive content. So what I'm working on next for We Deal, or in addition for We Deal in Lead. Yeah, Chaoclip says both Vault of Doom and this so good. Yeah, thanks. I love Vault of Doom. Um, oh, it was Mana Ramp. Oh, cool. So uh, Matt Morris, Mana Dawn now, Mana Dawn Productions, or I can't remember the full name. Yeah, the cover is awesome. I need to get into Bastards. I need to start having a look at it because I haven't. I've seen loads of cool stuff for it, but I haven't actually played it myself, and it looks really good. Looks very cool, very up my street. Okay, so switch out to another image. So I've shown this off before. This is the cover, or the draft temp cover for the next We Deal in Lead adventure called the Iron Draw. Oh, cool. So Sivad says, I do the words, he does the pretty pictures, as in Matt Morse. Awesome. Very cool. So here we have the Iron Draw. So it kind of works out perfectly that Chaoclypse and Sivad Sanctum are in the chat, because Chaoclypse, this image, I followed your process, your YouTube tutorial for photo bashing to get this result for the Iron Draw. So funnily enough, it's a funnel adventure too. Funnily enough. So for those who don't know, a funnel generally means that each player has a collection of characters that they're running. In kind of traditional old school role-playing games, you'll have 0 level characters. So in games that have a progression system where you level up, you'll start with a 0 level character, 3 or 4 of them normally, and then they'll go through a really grueling adventure, and death is often. And if you have one character that survives at the end of it, that's their backstory. That's how they became an adventurer, and that's what brings them to level 1. They become an actual adventurer. So Chaoclypse says, I've seen this. So glad I was able to help. Yeah, awesome. It's really useful. So for funnel, generally when you say funnel, you think of like DCC, which is Dungeon Crawl Classics. They use a funnel for their character generation. But I wanted to have a funnel for We Deal in Lead, because I have the concept of apprentices already in the game. So, or someone who, a hireling that you can hire as a gunslinger, and who won't be a gunslinger. They won't have a gun, but they can assist you. So I thought it would be cool to have a group of hirelings or a group of apprentices who, at the end of the adventure, would become a gunslinger if they survive. So that's what the Iron Draw is. And I alluded to this earlier in the monorail section in Omega City, but there will be a sentient train involved, hence the train image on the cover. And if you'll notice, I've got the 19, so it's number 19, which is a recurring number in the Dark Tower, number of great import. So I wanted to have my kind of design process for this was that I wanted to have the train. I wanted it to look like a desert. I wanted there to be the hint of both a funnel, which is who we've got, or like a target. So we've got the kind of target outline. Then also the hint or the suggestion of AI or sentience or intelligence, which is this image or this light at the center. So I wanted to be reminiscent of HAL 9000 from 2001 Space Odyssey. So we'll have that glowing orb as kind of the focal point for the AI, and that's the personification of it. So then of course we've got the crows, the ravens, which is a common image in the Dark Tower. So Sivad says, I feel like all the good Western systems have a train starter adventure. I need to get on that for Setting Sun. Yeah. I think it makes sense. I mean, because it's a cool trope. You've got the train, you can heist it, you can protect it. It's a symbol of traveling from non-frontier to frontier. So there's a lot of mileage there. So for this one, the background is made up of 2 images. So I've got this one here, which was a photo in the background as well. You can't really see the detail that well, just because of the way it's the way I've kind of filtered it. But so there's 2 images that make up the background, and then obviously the train, which is from a photo as well. So this is all photo bashed using Cairn's method. So Chaoclips replies to Civet Sanctum saying, yeah, come to think of it, Frontier Scum has a train starter adventure too. Oh, cool. Oregon Trail. Some body horror in there as well. Very Morky. Morkborg, yeah. Basically a rolling dungeon crawl. Yeah. Yeah. So that's and also part of my inspiration for this was the film Bullet Train, which was just good fun popcorn film. I thought it'd be really cool to have an adventure set on a train with competing factions, but also have that train to be hyper intelligent, maniacal, psychotic AI out to kill everyone. So yeah, that's kind of this is the progress I have so far. This one's still in the planning stages, so this is going to be after the Bestiary and after I finish the Indigenous adventure. But this is coming down the road as well, or coming down the track, as you will. So I'm excited for this. I'm looking forward to making more adventures and modules for Runecairn and for We Deal in Lead. Because I think yeah, there's a lot of mileage there, and I like Cairn as a system. One thing that I do plan on doing further down the road, so maybe not this year, depending on how well these ones go and how many I actually finish. What I want to do is take my existing 5e adventures. So I've published 2 5e adventures before I did Runecairn. I did Howling Caverns and Colossus Wake. Howling Caverns is my version of Ravenloft, or of a Ravenloft setting, and Colossus Wake is an inspiration, or it was inspired by Shadow of the Colossus, the video game. So those were done for 5e using the OGL. Obviously, with all that happened with the OGL in January, I thought about like taking the existing adventures and converting them to Cairn, because I think it would be a cool design project. Taking maximal 5e design language with like the 6 different ability scores and 6 different saves and different skills and stuff like that, and compressing it down to 3 abilities, roll under system, and SAR style, into the odd style gameplay. So I think that'd be really cool. So that's what I want to do, further down the road. That's going to be a big project, because it'll basically mean a total redesign, like relay out everything. Not a total redesign, but like a significant redesign. So that's down the road in the future. And then I've got more ideas for future We Deal in Lead adventures too, and fleshing out the world a bit more while still keeping it high level enough and with enough room for wardens and GMs to play with the lore. Rather, I don't want it to be too prescriptive. I want there to be room to move and to play around in it. Yeah, so that's what I've got in the works. I'm going to switch back to here. All right. Switch my screens around. There we go. Okay. So I think I'm gonna bring it to a close there. Thanks, Cived's Sanctum and Chaoclips, for tuning in and for participating. Really enjoyed it. enjoyed running through my Dungeon 23 process and talking about my upcoming projects, stuff like that. And it worked perfectly that both of you were involved in projects or are responsible for inspiration for the projects that I've shown off today. So I'm planning on doing more streaming every 2 weeks, hopefully. Maybe Thursday nights, maybe Saturday afternoons. Sivad says, great stream, tons of fun. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. I had a lot of fun too. Clip says, was fun. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so if you're watching this later on, give it a like, subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing more of these in the future. Check out the links in the description for the notebook that I'm using. The music I'm using on my stream is from Of Sleeping Bears. He did the Watch and Warrant companion EP, which is a lot of fun. So have a listen to that and sign up to my newsletter. But I think it's at risk of bombarding you with tons of things to do. If you're not subscribed already and you'd like to be subscribed, then give me a subscribe. I think I'll leave it there. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I will